Scurry forged to the front. The favourites kicking away, and it's all absolute glory. It romps in by nearly 3.
Swept to the lead out wide. From last split, not a shock. Safiano underboss box on, but Black Bolt racing away, and Black Bolt is too good.
Gutsy just in front. He's got to fight too, Gutsy. Maximum velocity, Angus Steiner trying, but Gutsy gets it done. The monkey off the back.
Surges clear, inspirational girl, running home powerfully, but it's all in vain, and Truly Great wins the Kingston Town Classic.
G'day punters, welcome to the Sydney Review Show. It was just a standard benchmark meeting there at Rosehill on Saturday, but there's still enough betting action to get our teeth into over the next few weeks in particular. It's never a dull time of year in New South Wales, I'm sure. Mark Shean, you'd know a lot more about that than me. How'd you see the weekend?
Yeah, well, Rosehill was an interesting day. There seems to be some very gentlemanly riding there with pace. They absolutely walked in just about every race. I don't actually think the track was biased. I think it was just the tempo of the races were so slow all day. I think Pandemic was really the only race where they moved along and something came from off the speed. There, Oscar Zulu in the first in a small field mate ground, but apart from that, they were just walking in just about every race.
Mark Rhoden, there was a few near misses for yourself there on Saturday. Have you recovered from the weekend just yet?
Yeah, just about. Just going to put it behind me. But yeah, things like an Enchanted Heart looking home, and I suppose I've only myself to blame with Sausage. She does miss the start and did it again on Saturday. Yeah, a lot of seconds. That was unfortunately the story of the week for me.
And Rob Scurry, good to have you back on the show this week. How'd you see him out of the yard overall there?
I didn't see him too badly, but I just didn't handle it very well with the betting. You know, I think I did 2 meetings. You know, Friday and Saturday. I think we had 4 winners on top, but you know, I think I only backed 1 or 2 of them, which is, you know, it leaves a sour taste.
Yeah. All right, we're going to review races 1 to 5 through 9. So we'll start with race 1, which was a benchmark 72 for the 3-year-olds, only a small field. Oscar Zulu's posted a pretty decent figure overall on the punting form data, and in terms of the overall race speed, they've gone 2.2 lengths fast to the 600 here despite the smaller field. Rob, I'll start with you. The small field, were you able to pull them apart there in race 1?
Got a pretty average bunch here. No better than the 3-year-olds on Friday night over a similar distance. The Exo Boom and the Les Bridge horse that won. I thought they're just as good as these, if not better. I found Zoomist on top. You know, got back in a slowly kind of run race, swapped the run with Oscar Zulu, and I think it finishes a bit closer. I'm not saying it wins, but yeah, pretty even bunch, barely above Wednesday in my estimation. Kiku was like a at top Waller, so that made me want to bet in the race, as I thought, you know, there's a chance of that getting beat. Black Duke's got a bit of scope for improvement, I think. He's a heavy set 3-year-old, big boy, and you know, he can improve a little bit. Oscar Zulu looked well, but yeah, I've seen him look better, so I went around him.
Yeah. Mark Shean, as you said just before we started, obviously a lot of these horses at even speed to the 600 and then try and sprint home over the last 400. Is that how you saw race 1?
Yeah, well, Little Cracker Tail did inject some speed into the race and probably upset the apple cart for Culture Amnesia, who got a little bit fired up. He got his own way in front on the rail the other day, and here he had to do a bit of work, and once he got to the lead, he started to pull. So that probably put it on a little bit for a horse back in the field like Oscar Zulu. Kiku, well, she had all favours to win last start, and she seemed to have all favours again there. She was beaten by a first starter a couple of runs ago, so she did seem a little bit short on the day, not being after the ball, but I must admit I stayed out of the race. I found it a confusing race. The winner had trialled quite well, but all his form had been on wet ground, so there was a question mark about him going onto the dry, but he certainly handled that quite well and was well supported.
Yeah, exactly right. Mark Rhoden, a little bit of late money for the Waller stable. That's never a bad thing.
It was bad for me because Kiku, so it was terrible for me actually. But they certainly knew it was going to run well first up. It was a very, very solid go, the winner, and they were spot on. I'm not 100% sure this race was 1,300 metres. The figures are just too high with me. If this time and sections are right. And like I've used Cultural Amnesia as a benchmark. He sort of controlled the race at midweek the last time, and you know, rated the figure he rates. And if we take this time at face value, he's improved after not getting control of this race, and I just don't think that's true. Yeah, they're a good ordinary bunch of 3-year-olds. And yeah, don't know what else to say, but I think that could be a misleading figure if you're taking either your own or the punting form data at face value.
Yeah, so I mean, how often do you necessarily find a situation like that? And if that's the case, what do you do with that figure going forward? You just pen the race?
I don't pen the race. I've had to drag it back though, because I just don't. For them to rate that high, you know, we're talking about better than average Saturday summer 3-year-olds, and I don't think they are. And there's no margins either. They finished in a bunch. You know, usually when you get a horse rating that level, it's put a bit of a hole in it, or two have cleared out or something. But not when 4 are going across the line within a length. You know, it's, I don't believe it. I think it happens a lot in the bush. It doesn't happen very often in town. But they had 3 races at 1300, 1350, and 1400 on Saturday, which is a bit odd, but and rare. But I think the stalls are in the wrong spot for this race.
I remember one day when I was calling at Rosehill, there was one race, I think it was 13 or 1400, and they have a set of jump out stalls there. So the jump out stalls for race 1 blocked my view of the barrier stalls for the first, and there was another race in race 7 over the same distance, and I could see the barrier stalls. So they were in a different spot.
Yeah, I mean, it makes it hard, doesn't it, when things like that happen? But you know, I mean, we're very data obsessed these days, and it's the best tool there is, the Times. But yeah, when things appear too good to be true, they often are.
They are. I think you're right. This is not a very impressive bunch to look at.
Yeah.
All right. Interesting little side note there for race 1. We'll go to race 2. 1,800 metre benchmark 72 for the 3 and 4-year-olds. And we did talk about Ellsberg there on the previous show, and finally, I guess, did what he had almost been promising to do at previous starts and won by 4 lengths. They've gone even on the punting form data, 1.2 lengths fast to the 600. And Rob, just run us through how they paraded there in race 2.
He's a big, strong boy, Ellsberg. I think I called him a $1.10 shot if he jumps away with him at Newcastle the other week. I just got superstitious. It's very, very bad form from me. And then I noticed that Betfair's paying 3 dividends on the race, and so I got Ellsberg from Lando Bay clearly from the rest of them. So I just thought, well, maybe we'll just, take the $6 odd Lando Bay to run a hole here. That might be a smart play. And it's gone past me a length clear, and the Toscanini's just jumped up out of the ground to get it in a photo to my man Sherry, who was nutting me all Friday night. So this is just torture. I can't really talk about it too much. Joliet is not much of a horse. Ellsberg, was a $1.10 shot if it jumped, and it did, and I'm still sick about it. Don't ask me.
That sounds like racing to me. Mark Shean, can you give Rob a hand?
Well, look, Ellsberg, the concern with him, I suppose, going into this race was that he had a gutbuster at Newcastle, and he just paraded outstandingly. He's built like a tank, and he looked magnificent in the yard before the race. The one-eyed blinker's obviously done the trick there, but he got control, and he raced away and showed us what a good horse he is potentially. Toscanini, I think he needs the ultimate operation. He's jig-jogging around in the yard before the race, and his other couple of runs, he's had the head on the side under pressure, so he just lacked concentration in this race. So I think they'll probably geld him eventually. I know he's well bred, but you're not going to get the best out of him if he continues with those antics. So Ellsberg, certainly the one to follow. He'll step up in class eventually, but I think he's a good horse.
Mark Rhoden, in terms of the overall figures, this is a very similar figure to what was produced in race 1. So I think that probably gives a little bit of a lend to what you're saying regarding the first event.
I think it does. I mean, this is a horse you can believe has made significant improvement and raced really, really well. It looked like it did, and the numbers back it up. You like to have the eye and the figures aligning, and the figures in the eye did not align in race 1, but they certainly did in this race. Ellsberg has always had in his 3 starts, if things went his way, shown the potential to do what he did on Saturday. So in this case, I'm perfectly happy to believe the figures.
Sure. All right, let's jump to race 5, and it's more to let Mark Rhoden just vent a little bit, or just, it's all part of the healing process, but the race was won by Edison. Even tempo, 0.8 lengths fast to the 600, but it did, Mark Rhoden, for all money, look like Enchanted Heart had this sewed up.
Yeah, if it hadn't been the 4th time it happened to me in about the last 10 or so days, I probably would have been taken it better. I had the 2 at the Rosehill Friday, Angelini at about $1 billion to 1 at Gosford during the week, and now this one. And I actually, you know how you sort of mentally or emotionally think, oh, you banked the money? No, this is just stroll past and this is home. Oh, no, it's not. Just another way the game gets you.
Rob, I'll jump to you. How did you think they paraded? Were you able to separate many of these? Because it was a bunch finished with 4 of them going across the line together.
I had the first 3 and then I had the Humboldt Current. So they were my numbers. Edison can improve a little bit. Like his coat wasn't quite there. Enchanted Heart looked like that Today or Never, like totally, absolutely at top, like, all bone and muscle. And Big Boy Roy close to perfect Waller. But, how can I back Big Boy Roy on a Saturday at $3.60? Just can't. So, I have little place play on Humboldt Current, which whacked away okay. Got to the line all right, and probably you'll find a race or two over 1,600, 2,000 later this preparation, I'd suggest.
Okay. Mark Shean, just trying to separate the first couple across the line. Obviously, a very narrow margin. Was there anything else in the field that might have appealed outside of the winner?
Not really. Big Boy Roy did look very unlucky here. Thank God I laid it. I didn't think it had any chance, and it probably should have won. So, look, the top 3 in the betting looked like they would fight the race out, and they did. Edison coming off the canvas, not much else you can say. Enchanted Heart had the race won. Big Boy Roy very unlucky when he got into the box seat and couldn't get out.
Yeah.
I think what Rob said, about Enchanted Heart being, absolute top, actually over the top, because she's strolled up to and shaped up like she was going to win by 2 lengths. And she's blown out. She's completely blown out.
Looking at her, I wouldn't say she's over the top. She paraded magnificently. So
okay.
I think maybe she's looking for a bit of cut out of the track, perhaps under pressure. That's the only thing I can think of. She did it the same at Newcastle, didn't she? She looked like she had great news beaten. But I wouldn't say she's over the top looking at her, Mark.
Okay. I'd say the difference with Newcastle, she did keep going. She sort of floated and waited for something to beat her on Saturday. She went to the line pretty well with great news at Newcastle, I think. Anyway.
The leg of the quaddie, the 2,000 metre race, and we were talking about this race in a good amount of detail on the previous show. In terms of the overall class, they've gone pretty quick here to the 600, 5.5 lengths fast, with Gone By and Significance sort of fighting it out early, and Significance has managed to, in the end, defy the drift and get the result here over Gone By, and Accountability, who was just having a picnic back in the field and then eventually got going late. It was a difficult watch once again for 1M Rhoden, but we'll jump to him in just a second. Rob, the middle distance to stay in class, what did you think?
Look, I think I had my numbers were similar to the market, like 6, 7, 13 and 4. I was topping out between 4 and 3. Significance, big, strong, heavy set horse. I don't know. I wasn't that keen. Accountability, I hadn't really seen close up in the flesh before, but he looks to be pretty much close to his top Waller. And this looks about his grade. I don't think he's going to turn out to be a very listed to group horse. So and Gone By seemed to hold his condition from when I saw it on Melbourne Cup Day. So yeah, it's one of those races where they got separation and the other guys just couldn't make up the margin. I thought Cross Dubai was pretty weak. I guess he did cart the field up, but Saturday Sydney staying race, not that much to get excited about for me.
Yep. Mark Shean, Significance has had the stable change going into this prep, and now it's raced and won twice over the 2,000 metre mark. Is that where you think he's just going to be as a horse going forward?
Look, he's a horse who's very one-paced, and they've got to get him rolling. Look, I reckon I've laid him about 7 or 8 times through his career. He's been a good horse to me at the lay. I didn't like him Saturday, but he got him into a nice position. I just think, even though J Mac rode 4 winners, he wouldn't be thinking this was one of his best rides of the day. I think he just waited way too long. I think he probably thought these leaders had gone too hard and will come back, and they didn't.
Yep. Mark Rhoden, that's probably a good way of summing this race up, but it's amazing how many times you see it. You're going at slightly faster than Genuine, and all of a sudden the back markers can't actually get into the race because they're a bit gassed.
I completely echo what Mark just said. Because the 3 horses, it was Gone By, Significance and Trevelyan, I think, the sparks were flying early, but only for a couple of hundred metres, only for 200 or 300 metres. And by about the mile marker, they settled into their rhythm. And I was watching the sectionals on Sky, and one of the early furlongs was 11-1 or something, way too fast. But they got that under control very quickly. So by the time they were going down the back, they were doing 12-6s and stuff. But Bowman on Vegas Duel, and McDonald was following him on accountability, maintained the same distance from them.
Yeah.
So they've actually slowed down as well. Accountability, who drew barrier 1, I know he's not a leader or anything, but he should have been handy from barrier 1. He was 10 lengths off the lead at the 1,200 metre mark, and he's ended up making his run around the turn about 8 wide. And been beaten 3/4 of the length. It's an absolute certainty beaten, in my view. And look what he's done to the horses around him, like Vegas Duel, who was, how easily he's beaten them. Okay, Rob, I agree he's not group class, but that's a win they've left on the table there, I think. And he's a good, solid Saturday.
Yep.
All right. Race 7, 1,100 metre benchmark 88, Pandemic. Mark Shean touched on it before. They did go even for this class. They've gone half a length fast to the 600, and it is one of the horses that was able to make up significant ground, but only managed to get over top of Albumin and Mo's Crown right on the line there. Rob, you mentioned something along the lines of Albumin running second probably summed up this race.
Yeah, look, it's a horse that always really rates well with us, Albumin, and he looked all right again. And I've had a good win on him at Rosehill at double figures before. So, but I just couldn't find room for him in the top 4, and thank God he didn't win. So my numbers were, I had the winner, but how can you back a get back horse like this at $3? It just doesn't seem like a smart play. So I ended up on Poetic Charmer, Single Bullet, and True Detective. Not one of the best rides. T Stockdale had a bit of a mare, as they say, I thought, on Saturday. He's not going that well. But he might turn it around. I think Poetic Charmers, he's almost my horse to follow out of the meeting. I thought he's run home pretty well here, and I think he's got good improvement to come. A bit like maybe Charatera. There's a race for him, but it's one of these horses that it's hard to have a lot of confidence backing him. They sort of found their level, but yeah, I think he's worth following. I got sucked into Gary Portelli horse, which is just kicking myself. Single Bullet. I thought he couldn't have paraded better, pinged the gates. I thought it was very disappointing. I thought he was in a bumping duel for a little while, but on the head on, it didn't look too bad. And True Detectives run well here first up. And yeah, the winners got home at it's paid $4.30 in the end on Betfair. So I guess in my mind it was a 2-1. So it's obviously got out a bit late.
Yeah. Mark Shean, as Rob pointed out, Poetic Charmers run some pretty decent sectional splits on the way home over the last 600, but especially the last 400. Is there any other horses that you're looking to follow out of this race?
I didn't think Hulk paraded that well on the day. I think, maybe that it's an indication that he might have had enough here. He did break out quite badly for him, so I thought Poetic Charmer probably looked like a run or two would help him. He's a gross type, but he just got too far back, and you can't come from last at Rosehill over 1,100 metres. So I think certainly he was the run of the day. Away from that, True Detective probably had to be written upside down, but it is True Detective. He got a bit of a P heart. Pandemic stood up. I think McDonald stood over him, and he got the money. So well done if you found Pandemic.
And Mark Rhoden, that's an interesting point, isn't it? The 1,100 metre shoot. It was a day where most of the races were over 1,300 metres or more. You'd obviously review the 1,100 and 1,200 metre races a little bit differently.
Yeah, generally do at Rosehill. Yeah, it is generally an on pace as a favourite out of that shoot. With a sort of hairpin bend, absolutely. Good win by the Pandemic. Finally got a few favours in the run and got his he hadn't won for a while, had he? He got his Saturday win. Won a bit. I think it was last summer he won a race, didn't he? It beat
True Detective.
Yeah, they're all tight at the hip. Mo's Crown. They've all clashed a couple of times actually. There wasn't much between them each run, sort of.
Yeah. Well, Mo's Crown had the better run at Kembla, and Pandemic had no luck. Mo's Crown's run well again. Pandemic just had a better run and turned the tables. It's not much to say really.
Yeah, just a standard Saturday race really. As was this one, race 8, 1350 for the fillies and mares, benchmark 78. And speaking of races where they just hacked along, they've gone 7.1 lengths slow to the 600 here, and the leaders won. So not too much of a surprise there. Sausage was a little bit slow away, as it tends to do, and has rattled home clearly the best splits out of the race. Rob, run us through the fillies and mares.
I ended up landing on Bring the Ransom, which couldn't have less trouble. Just found heaps of trouble on the straight. Never got really a crack at him. Got home all right, I thought. Savine was in the numbers too. Sausage looked pretty much screwed down to me. Vitesse looked well. I thought Vinciano looked pretty well. That was in the numbers as well. So yeah, it was a frustrating race. I thought Bring the Ransom could have got closer. When you back them each way, you don't get a run, and you finish the length off. I mean, it's pretty sick. But Vitesse has gone well, and it looked the winner a long way out.
Yep. Mark Shean, the market sort of followed Vitesse right in here and was pretty much bang on.
Yeah, well, they certainly knew it was going to get a soft lead, didn't they? 750 into about 480, and the race looked over after about 200 metres. I'd never seen a thing get a softer lead. Concur about Bring the Ransom. I'd never seen a horse get into more trouble. Definitely should have been in the finish. Sausage, got a long way back. Celica looked fairly trained up and seemed to have every chance. Usual suspects, but Bring the Ransom, very unlucky.
All right. Mark Rhoden, anything on review for race 8? A very slowly run race.
Yeah, I missed. The reason I missed the winner is because I had her pegged as a wet tracker, and I'm not totally ruling out that that's the case, because I don't think I'd still be against her on a dry track unless she's going to get circumstances like this again, because it was farcical, really. So I'd still much prefer her on a heavy track than a firm track. Not the track was rock hard on Saturday either, but I still think she's better on wet, and she's just got absolutely all favours on this occasion, as the market suggested she would.
Yeah, indeed.
They knew.
The old day. All right, well, race 9, even speed in terms of the punting form data, 0.4 lengths slow to the 600. And again, the two on speed horses in Cyril Step and Ramstein have fought it out, and Cyril Step's got the better of the yellow galloper in the end. Rob, just take us through a few of the horses in race 9.
Cyril Step's never been one to really take my eye. Barely a Saturday horse. Ramstein looked very screwed down. Like with a bit more condition. Dunbrody Power, I thought I sent her out on top, and she's got back and come home all right. But yeah, nice relaxed horse, holding good condition. Oxford Tycoon, I thought pretty forward here. But other than that, it's not much really to get excited about.
Yeah. Mark Shean, top 3 in the market once more, fought out the top 3 places.
Yeah, another walk in the park here, another race where they just settled in their positions. Nothing really happened until they got to about the 300. Cyril Step just had the better kick than Ramstein, who just didn't back it up off a pretty tough run first up. Dunbrody Power lacked a lot of dash there at the top of the straight when she's normally coming a little bit quicker than that. She got going late, but just the tempo there around the circle was just too slow, and it suited the 2 leaders. And Cyril Step well rated outside the lead and got the job done.
Yeah. Mark Rhoden, much to add?
No, not really. Yeah, I was on Ramstein. My concern was that he might have been flattened by that barbecuing. He got the Rosehill midweek to start before, and I think he was just a little bit flatty. He certainly had a soft enough run in front, and I was on pretty good terms with myself coming around the turn, but he didn't quicken like I thought he would, and he was Cyril Step had him a fair way out, to be honest.
All right. Horses to follow. Rob's throwing out Poetic Charm. Rob, was there another horse that really stood out from the card that you thought might improve going to the next start?
Well, I went to Kenzo on Friday night. I think this Exo Boom can step up to a Saturday race.
Okay.
It was booked in, and the winner in that race as well, the Les Bridge horse. I don't know can't remember what it's called, but
Lennon.
Yeah,
Lennon.
Yeah, Lennon. Imagine.
Right. Very good. Mark Shean, a few horses to follow for yourself.
Actually, we didn't touch on race 4, which might be a promising race going forward. The Eleanor, of course, winning that Spring Stakes at Newcastle, coming out of that race. Decuri was, or Decuri, I'm not sure how you pronounce this. I do remember backing it at its first, or at a Kembla run where it missed the place in a maiden. I was still scratching my head, but since he's got up in distance, he was very unlucky on Saturday. By contributor, he'll run 1.5 miles, this horse, but the winner, Eleanor, just franking that Spring Stakes form, it absolutely bolted in. Beautiful ride from McDonald, roll forward. Eventually got into the 1-1 and paraded well and sprinted right away. So looks a good race to follow. Number 12 out of that race, Scurry. Bring the Ransom also, horror story.
And Mark Rhoden, for yourself, a couple of horses to follow.
I'll mention two that I thought had trailed well before Saturday and without winning ran really well in Humboldt Current and Poetic Charmer, and two that probably should have won on Saturday and might get a Saturday win were Big Boy Roy, and sounds like the boys aren't a fan of him, and I have never been either, but I think he's clearly come back flying, and Accountability, he's flying as well.
All right, very good. Looking at the week ahead, we've got Warwick Farm Wednesday, Wyong Thursday, Canterbury Park Friday, the Villiers and the Christmas Cup there on Saturday, and then rounding it off with another meeting at Hawkesbury. Mark Shean, the Villiers, obviously, just looking at it as a race, what are you expecting this year in terms of the field? Have you got any feel for what it's looking like at this stage?
Well, I suppose all those horses coming out of the festival will go there. So you're looking at horses like Outrageous, Faistos, Sambro, Through the Cracks, probably all those horses out of that festival. That's up. So, and not sure about the staying race. You got Graceful Glamour might go to the 1.5 miles. I wonder if Accountability will back up at a 1.5 miles on Saturday.
Yep, exactly right. Mark Rhoden, just another busy week.
Yeah, they like to jam a lot of meetings in coming up to Christmas, and this year's no exception. Yeah, the meeting I'm dreading, I suppose, is Canterbury Friday night. Don't know what I'm going to do about that. I'm a bit scarred after the last couple, but no, there'll be plenty of chances to find a winner this week.
Yep, exactly. Rob, you've got Warwick Farm and Canterbury Wednesday and Friday. Are you keen on either?
No, look, it's peak wine selling season. I've got 1 week to go.
Yep.
So and the missus has got work Christmas party Friday night. So I'll be there on Saturday for the Villiers. It'd be good to get to Randwick on the course proper.
All right, beautiful. Look, we'll catch up on Thursday. I'll just be myself and Mark Rhoden. We'll run through that card and we'll get some of the other boys on. We'll do some previews from around the grounds. I'll be at a wedding this Saturday, so it will be the first Saturday in probably a year and a half that I haven't provided some sort of betting or been betting myself. So I'm looking forward to having a day off, but I'll make sure I preview a lot of the Ascot races for us then. So guys, have a good week. Mark, Shean to you. We'll catch you next week.
Okay, man. See you later.